Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's nice to see you again. I'm back home now after our trip down to Devon, and what a wonderful time. Thanks to Nikki and Andy for putting us up in some splendid glamping cabins. We would been quite happy to stay in our van, but it was absolutely fantastic to be there on the farm in their environment, really. And we were just so blessed with all that beautiful sunshine, and actually coming back to Sussex where I am, we still got a little bit of it left. I'm wondering if things are beginning to change, or are the pilots due a week off? Who knows? You know, the ones that are spraying the skies and all that nonsense. Anyway, I want to say a big thank you, obviously, to my viewers for watching, but also those special people who donate and keep the channel going. I do have to say this from time to time because a lot of people have been supporting me. It's about 6 months now, I can't believe it, in which I've been demonetized by YouTube. So it is only these donations that are keeping the channel going. And I also want to thank all those lovely people who send things in. Helen, I got back from our trip and I found this book, which was fascinating. I haven't had a chance to read it properly, of course. Execution by Hunger, it's called. The Hidden Holocaust. It says on here, this is back in the 1920s, 7 million people in the breadbasket of Europe were deliberately starved to death at Stalin's command. This story has been suppressed for over half a century. It originally was published in 1986, so it's not a new thing. It's not, you know, it hasn't come out on the basis that we've seen with the Ukraine war and stuff. And I've not been covering any of that stuff because I'm not really interested in that. I'm much more interested in what goes on here in Britain, or the landmass that we call Britain, and all of that. But anyway, it does seem that a lot of farmers were under attack from a communist government, and you might say there's a few mirrors going on at the moment with the same thing. I saw a video was sent to me the other day. It was a farmer sitting in his cab of his tractor, and he was going through all the different policy changes and issues that were being thrust at the farmers at the moment. And they were just so many. And he was sitting there and I thought, cool, poor bugger. He's sitting there and he's got to deal with this, he's got to deal with that, he's got to deal with the other. And it just seemed an endless load of stuff. And I just thought to myself, where's the line? Where is the line in which people who are perhaps not awake to some of the stuff that's actually going on, the machinations of the string pullers, and then they haven't been down the rabbit hole, as I dare say most farmers haven't. Most farmers getting on with the job of farming. They're isolated on their farms. They've got 101 million things to get on with at the moment. You know, you've got lambing going on. You've probably got various crops that you're planting. You're thinking about what other husbandry tasks that you've got. Perhaps there's still some maintenance to do on the farm, some hedge trimming, who knows. They're very busy, but not just in farming. Anybody who's running a business, a small business, not big corporations, family-run businesses, small businesses that employ people. It seems at the moment that there is a huge attack on these. I mean, we've seen it, we saw it really during the COVID lockdown, didn't we? In which small businesses were penalised. They weren't seen as important enough to remain open. And the big corporations, for some reason, they were seen important enough to stay open. And I think a lot of people began to see, hang on a minute, the world is upside down. They may not know all the information that's out there. They may not know really what's going on, but they could feel it. They could feel that they were under pressure. And I often think to myself, this is a bit strange, isn't it? Because here we are in the 21st century, supposedly at the most sophisticated and cultivated in our lives. And yet, actually, as you will have known, watching my channel and others like it, that all is not as it appears, that those that seem to be kind and benevolent in authority actually dress things up in one way But whilst they're saying this, on one hand, they're doing something completely different, which seems to be detrimental on the other. Excuse me whilst I have a slurp of my coffee. And we do know, of course, that there's fewer of them than there are of the great multitude. And we also know that the great multitude have been manipulated to a greater or lesser degree through schooling, through mainstream media, through education, through the workplace, through religion, and a lot of people's own personal, perhaps, outlooks have been dented, and one size fits all. And we're seeing much more of that one size fits all with these one world government type initiatives, have we not? Dressed up like the 17 sustainable goals to save the planet. And it might occur to some people that actually the planet doesn't need saving. It's us that needs saving from those that would be, well, basically getting rid of us in their own inimitable style. But where I come back to now is, where is this line? Where's the line for the farmer sitting in his cab saying, I've got all this pressure, they want all this money, they want to tax us this, they want to prevent us from doing that, they want this, they want that. And the small businesses, where is the line for them where they've got the problems? Where is the line for the general public who are perhaps, having things removed from them, their freedoms? Where is the line for those that realise they're being surveilled 24/7, or that the 5G towers out there may not be as healthy as people thought they were? And I don't actually know anybody who's clamoured to have them in the first place, but we've got them. Where is the line for those who turn on their taps and say, actually, there's fluoride in this water, I'm not sure I want to drink it? Fluoride there's a big question mark. At the very least, there's a question mark about it. And we've had that with a medical intervention, did we not? Where is the line for those people who may have been advised to take something that they didn't actually need, and now they're finding all sorts of harms as a result of it? Where is the line? And by the line, I mean, where is the line that the people of this country and possibly around the world, that start to say, actually, enough is enough, mate. I don't mind you having some administration. I don't mind obeying some sort of rules. I think it's probably a good idea to have some kind of guidance and rules that we can all agree on. But where is the line that people will find acceptable to say, you lot have overstepped it. This is too much. You're taxing us too much. You're limiting our freedoms too much. You're watching us day and night too much. You're putting stuff into the water too much. You're spraying the skies far too much. You've got policies which are anti-human. That's too much. At what point do we reach that line where people say, no, there's not that many of you and there's all of us? And at some point, when do we reach that point? I mean, many of us feel we reached it years ago. Many of us feel like the line has been well and truly crossed, but a lot of people just cannot see it. And because of that, I suppose there's a number of people who do want to get out into the country and do want to grow their own food and escape the cities where we've had a lot of pressure from this, that and the other, and they don't feel safe to be in. Where is the line that we say, hang on a minute, there's just too many people from the rest of the world coming into this landmass that we call Britain, that we somehow are paying for, yet we're not looking after our own? Where is that line, and what happens when we cross it? And that's the worrying thing, I suppose, is what in some ways you feel that we're all being herded towards to crossing that line and getting violent. Well, that's not going to help anyone. Fortunately, I think more people out there are intelligent to realise that crossing the line and being violent is not the answer. But what is the answer? Well, it seems to me that in the end, ultimately, the answer is, if you're sitting in your cab in your tractor and you're saying, I've got all these pressures. I've got to be taxed on this. There's a compulsory purchase to build houses on my land. They're taking away some bribery that they gave us in the past to grow this and to do this, and now they're taking it away. They're threatening my business. They're ready to take everything. Once that line has been crossed, surely the answer is, I'm just not going to deal with you anymore. In fact, you are no longer relevant. That authority that seems to think that it has its own power over the rest of us, at some point we cross the line where we go, actually, it was fine. You were doing a reasonable job. Okay, you made a few mistakes. And okay, some people in there are less easy to get on with, let's say, I'm being polite, than others. But once the line is crossed, there comes a point where surely the simplest answer is just to say, I no longer accept you as the authority. I no longer accept you as having anything to do with it. In fact, I'm no longer abiding by your rules and regulations because it's no longer fit for purpose. And if people think that something's not fit for purpose, why continue to go along with it? There has to be a line. And remember, a dictator without any followers is a clown. So in many ways, I keep hearing the moans and the grudges and the complaints from various sectors of society. And I just think, why comply with it all? Why go along with it? Why pay those taxes? Why abide by those rules? If sufficient numbers, for example, of the farmers just say, do you know what? We're just not doing it. You're not having the inheritance tax. You're not coming on the land to build your stuff. We're not abiding by all this planning nonsense. Actually, we've come to a point where this is ours. We've been doing it. We're X generation of farmers, or this has been my business and I handed it down to my son and what have you. And in the end, you're not fit for purpose. You've got nothing to do with us. So bog off. At some point, we do cross that line. And I just wonder how long it will take for people to cross that line and say, enough is enough. We're just not going to do it. Because if enough people say that, if enough people who feel that they have been put under the thumb turn around and say, actually, do you know what? We're not doing it. They lose all their power. It is a question of numbers, of course. But if enough people do it, their power is diminished. All the time they have them and it's just you, of course, they appear strong and we all feel, oh. But take the council tax. I mean, now it really is taking the piss where they've raised the price up so much. And more people are saying, actually, do you know what? Is this a fair tax? Do we even have to pay it? Where's it going? Who's spending it? Or on what? For when? And where in the legislation does it say and where actually am I in the legislation? Am I a person or am I one of the people? And do we need that legislation? You know, these are questions that I think are worth asking, because this ought to be, and it doesn't seem to be, but it ought to be a free country. We're all born equal. We come with nothing and we go with nothing, and we're only here for a short duration. And in that short duration, I believe that we should be creative and enjoying life to the best that we can and get the best out of life. And if those people that we put into power are not there to help us, then they shouldn't be there at all, in my opinion. But it's just an opinion, it's just my thoughts. Anyway, thank you for watching, if you have. I hope you have a fantastic day. A big thanks to those that donate and keep the channel going. And I will see you on the next one. Till then, bye-bye.